judgment in January, which shocked everybody, including Yoweri Museveni, because one, he has his wife is almost the vice president, and his daughter is the governor of the Ugandan Central Bank.
They were strategically placed.
So then he thought he didn't expect that judgment. That the Supreme Court is going to decide against him. Okay. Understand me? So when he came, it was a shock to him and a jubilation in the country. Because somebody, a presidential candidate in the opposition, who everybody is supporting that to take over from him. Because this guy has been there since Idi Amin was overthrown. He is the longest serving African president. Sure, so they want a change, but Museveni doesn't want a change, and that's why he's trying to introduce this law.
Now, Mr. Peter, I want us to look at it from the perspective of the fact that the man Museveni practically still wants civilians to be tried in a military court. Now, you would recall...
It's an aberration.
You would recall that the opposition leader, I'm talking about Kizza Besigye'S, was repatriated from Kenya, the same way a certain Nnamdi Kanu was carried from Kenya. So, the question now in the lips of Africans is, what exactly is the intent of Mr. Museveni as against opposition?
The court martial is not a conventional court.
Yes.
So a civilian cannot be tried in a court martial and expect to get justice. So the idea is because he has seen that he is losing from the conventional court, from the judgment of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So he felt that if he's tried in a conventional court, they might decide and acquit him. So that's why he wants him to be tried, to be court-martialed. And you can only be, a civilian can only appear in a military court in a queue.
Right.
Understand me?
Okay.
That is the only ground where a civilian will be court-martialed.
But there was no coup.
There was no
as
coup.
Regards Kizza Besigye.
He wants him to be put behind bars, so to stop acting as an opposition for him, because he still wants to continue in office.
Now let's look at the fact that presidents in Africa, both sitting and the ones that are past, they practically do not enjoy constructive criticism by opponents, and this overall is what we see even in Nigeria, where we're broadcasting from. Now let's talk, before we get to that particular space, let's talk about the opposition leader Kizza Besigye that was taken from Kenya. That move from Kenya, from your perspective, how very diplomatic is that move? Because that's not the first time that such move is happening, where you take someone from Kenya to another country, their country, to be tried.
Well, it is abduction, and it has become common with the president in Africa. In 1984, when the Sheikh Shagari government was overthrown,
right,
the Minister of Transport in the Shagari government was in UK at that time, in the person of Umaru Diko. Buhari has to send some secret servicemen to go and abduct him from UK. Understand me?
Right.
But he was put in a box, in a crate, and put in Nigerian embassy vehicle. But there was a woman who was watching this, and the woman called the British MI16. See what happened in my neighborhood. Nigerian embassy came and carried a box suspiciously, because embassy vehicles are not supposed to be searched. So that was why they put Umaru Diko in a box inside the Nigerian embassy vehicle,
Right.
hoping that it will not be searched. But when they get to the airport, the British Immigration Service forced them to open that case.
Right.
And when they opened it, Umbaro Diko was seen inside.
In the case.
Understand me? So this is, and the same way, the same Buhari also sent people to Nairobi to abduct Nnamdi Kanu. So it had been a practice by maximum rulers in Africa.
Now, the fact that you use that word, abduction, and what comes to mind is the fact that there is also a president in Kenya in the person of William Ruto. So is he also involved in this abduction?
Well,
and if yes, what do you think African Union and even the EU can do to stop such act? Because it's not the first, not the second.
No. If the president is involved, the diplomatic channels will have been followed, and it will have been extradition,
Right.
not abduction.
Okay.
Understand? As I told you, Omar Diko was kidnapped from his house in UK, put in a crate, and smuggled to the airport. Nnamdi Kanu was adopted on the streets of Kenya. So this is not government to government thing.
In the case of Kizza Besigye, the opposition leader, what would you call that?
It is the same abduction, because if it's not abduction, it will be extradition. For extradition means diplomatic
Bilateral relations would take place,
channels.
of course.
Nigeria Ugandan government communicating with Kenyan government.
Yes.
We need this person in our country to answer to so and so questions. So, but this process takes a lot of time.
Okay.
Because you have to take how human rights are respected in the other country.
Oh, definitely. It does take a lot of time because
Yes.
there was a case of extradition from Netherlands with Morocco in a particular situation that had to do with terrorism financiering. But then, if the Kenyan government is saying as well, just like you said, it's an abduction, the first person, the second person, with all of these antecedents, do you say that William Ruto is not somehow involved or fingered in any of these
Well,
at all?
for me, honestly,
because it's his country.
Unless we can say that there's no security in his
Kenya.
country, understand me? And this will also be affecting tourists.
Right.
Because Kenya is making a lot of money through tourism. Because they have these wild animals. They have, understand me? They made a lot of money through tourism. But when countries begin to see that life is not safe there, that you are not protected on the streets of Nairobi, the people will start shunning the country.
Interesting. Now let's bring it back to Uganda, where, as it stands, this law by Mr. Yoweri Museveni, the president of Uganda, is trying to trying to find his way through. Is there the possibility that this law will see the light of the day? Because, of course, the Supreme Court has ruled against it.
Well, it depends on the control that he has on the parliament. Because this is the way he wants to use that to go.
Mr. Peter, let me ask you a bit. You said it depends on the control he has on the parliament. Some quarters have said that almost every president in Africa has, if not 80-90% of control in parliament. Is there the possibility that this is something that runs around African leadership?
No.
Or is there an exception?
No, Cyril Ramaphosa is battling with the South African parliament.
That's because his party is having issues.
He don't have a minority. It was a coalition that came through. He has that to form a cabinet with the other parties.
Right.
So he don't have absolute control there. So it's not this is an uncivilized thing. Understand me? Understand?
So you're saying now that if the president practically has control over the parliament,
he will get what he wants.
Oh, wow.
Understand me? He will get what he wants.
So in other words, if that law is passed and of course signed as a bill, the likes of Kizza Besigye might return.
He will return to
the military court.
To the military court.
Now, Mr. Peter, help Africans understand this. I'm going to bring Nigeria into this. Some quarters have said that the parliament in Nigeria looks practically like a rubber stamp assembly because, like we know, there is a state of emergency in Rivers State, which a lot of persons have said is practically not so evident the reason why the state of emergency was declared. From your perspective, is the Nigerian parliament what some quarters have said it is, or you think otherwise?
What they are saying is even worse. Nigerian National Assembly is just a department of the executive. People are saying that it is an extension. It's not an extension. It is a department of the executive.
Okay, maybe put some light on that, Mr. Peter. When you say a department of the executive, more like this is the president, the office.
This is just a department. They understand from here, tell them what to do, and they do it. Understand me?
Wow.
So ordinarily, the National Assembly, that's from the separation of power. Understand me? The National Assembly is to checkmate what the executive is doing.
Right.
Understand me?
Right.
But now the executive is checkmating what the National Assembly is doing.
Where does that leave the politics? I beg your pardon. The policies and.
It means that we are running an autocratic government, not a democracy.
Oh wow.
It means that Nigeria is running autocracy, not the democracy.
Now, before I let you out of this particular one, because it's looking very broad and extensive, what happened in Rivers, according to some quarters, the president seemed not to be fully informed of all that happened in Rivers. Do you share that opinion? Or you think the president just acted on hearsays and the National Assembly also affirmed on the hearsay that the president did pass it?
No, the president knew what he did, understand? Because in 2004, when President Olusegun Obasanjo declared state of emergency in that state,
yes,
removed Joshua Daria as governor, and they put Major General Chris Ande. The current president was governor of Lagos State at that point in time. He condemned it vehemently.
Right.
He said it is unconstitutional and so on and so forth. In 2013, when Goodluck Jonathan declared state of emergency in the 3 states in the northeast, the same president condemned it.
Right.
That we have only one commander-in-chief, which is the president. Which means if the security of the country is failing, the governor should not be held responsible. It is the president that should be held responsible. So he knew about state of emergencies very well.
Okay.
So he knew, but what he did was to prioritize one man over 7 million people. Understand me? So Nelson Wike is now more important than the 7 million Rivers State people.
Oh, you think this is about the former governor of Rivers State, Nelson Wike?
He just want to make Wike happy.
Okay, now looking at the fact that you said the current president is fully aware of what a state of emergency truly means, some quarters have asked questions. The gravity of the instances you painted a couple of minutes ago with the former president Olusegun Obasanjo and Jonathan, the gravity of the situation, help Africans understand, were they the same or lesser for a state of emergency to be declared as it has been declared in Rivers State?
One, there's no breakdown of law and order in Rivers State, that to start with.
Okay.
And for there to be state of emergency, the governor of the state is the one to call on the president for help.
Right.
Understand me?
Right.
The governor of the state is the one that will call on the president for help. I'm overwhelmed. Understand me? In the case of 2004, there were communal crises. in Plateau State, which led to the death of hundreds of people.
Okay.
Understand me? More than 150 people died in Plateau State in 2004.
Right.
Before Obasanjo declared state of emergency.
Okay.
But in Rivers State, not even a fowl died. Understand me? And the 10,000 troops that were deployed to Rivers State are now sleeping in the open at the Rivers Police Command, because they cannot be deployed to anywhere because there's no breakdown of law and order. Understand me?
Right.
So they are just sleeping in the open in Rivers State Police headquarters.
Now, again, let's talk from the part of opposition. Last week you did say that opposition is sweeter when you're on the other side, but when you are in power, it practically isn't a very favorable thing.
What you condemn when you are in the opposition, you condone when you are in power.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you had to bring that in again. The former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, has said that the president should practically declare a state of emergency on insecurity. But the handlers of the president have come out to say that the president is very well, doing well, and of course, ruling from France. Just yesterday, Mr. Peter, help Africans understand the position of such statements at a time where over 50 persons have been killed in Plateau State. How many tens of persons were killed in this other state a couple of days ago? The list is endless. That statement.
Well, for me, what Tinubu is demarketing Nigeria. Tinubu is showing how inferior he is to the Europeans. Because since 2023, Tinubu has spent 59 days in France.
Right.
Emmanuel Macron had not spent a minute in Nigeria.
One of the ironies of this conversation is that last week, thereabout, myself and another analyst here were talking, and it was clear that Emmanuel Macron had to take a trip to Egypt, but his guest is in his country. Is there the possibility that a president is going to leave his guests in his country, in the hands of some persons, and travel to another country in the same continent?
Excuse me. We have not had any business discussion with either private or public people in France. So we don't know we don't know if Tinubu is a guest of Emmanuel Macron. We don't know that. But it is ironic that Tinubu is in France as we speak.
Okay.
Because at a point, Emmanuel Macron was on a state visit to another country.
Egypt, precisely.
No, this should be around 2018 or 19.
Okay, some years ago. All right.
He heard that a 17-year-old boy was stabbed 17 in Paris. He cut short his state visit and returned back to France. Understand me? That a 17-year-old boy was stabbed in Paris. He cut down his state visit and returned back to France. But now Tinubu is in France. More than 150 Nigerians have died in Nigeria, and Tinubu is still in France. So just imagine how Macron will be reasoning this man called Tinubu.
Now, before I jump off this particular conversation, I didn't take on the last one before because of our time. Is there the possibility that the handlers of the president at this time, according to some quarters, have said that that statement that the president can lead all the way from France and of course give directives in Nigeria, is there the possibility that the handlers of the president are insensitive to the yearnings of Nigerians when it comes to insecurity at a time like this, Mr. Peter?
Go and read about it, King Nero. There's an adage that Nero was partying when Rome was burning. It's a common adage.
Right.
So Tinubu is our modern Nero. Understand? He is in France while his people are being killed.
Quite unfortunate, Mr. Peter. Because of our time, let me just ask you this particular one. As it stands, the U.S.-Somali airstrike, of course, as battle rages for key towns in Somalia, there's been some progressive in that airstrike. And of course, you would recall that U.S.-Somalia did have a security deal to help, take out insecurity in that particular country.
ISIS.
Yes. Now, from your perspective, this kind of deal, some quarters have said that it doesn't just come easy. And of course, there might be some undertone of maybe mineral resource or something. But the fact that insecurity is being curbed, you think this deal practically is yielding its fruits as it stands?
No. What guides international politics is interest. What am I going to gain?
Right.
What am I going to gain? Yesterday you read that Donald Trump wants to shut down some embassies, especially in Africa.
Right.
One, he has seen that they are not making anything worthwhile from there. The people in the embassy are being paid. Those people that the embassy are open for don't have any purchasing power, which means they are going to be liability to the United States, even if they should come.
Right.
So the only thing is to save costs, shut down those embassies. So America is not a Father Christmas. They cannot just come to Somalia to begin to help them fight ISIS, terrorism, without what they will gain. It's either a military base or mineral resources.
Oh, well, it's not the first time, because we know as well this kind of deal is about happening in DR Congo as well, and of course in South Sudan. But we definitely will be keeping our eyes on all of these as they progress. We've been talking with Mr. Peter Anosike, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst.